The problem is a lot of us have more faith in human contracts than we do in God. When things work out, their faith in God is strong. When things don't work out, their faith falls apart. My faith was not in my car, right? And for a lot of people, their faith is tied to that car. Ooh, if you bump that car, you've stabbed their hearts. Their faith is tied to the money they have in the bank. When it gets to zero, they also just collapse. I learned that financial success and all kinds of material success in this world is not necessarily a reward for being a good Christian. It's not.
Welcome to another edition of Mindset Profits. I am back with a man a whole lot of you said he really needs to come back. Mr. Poloko, how are you, sir?
Mr. Ntando, I'm all right, my brother. How are you?
The people loved you the last time you were in here.
I hope so.
And I must say, I'm grateful for a lot of people, especially you.
I appreciate
meeting
it, man.
you.
Appreciate it.
The time I met you, perfect person, perfect time. And you don't even know at the time that you were dropping value to someone who was about to give up. How many people have you helped?
That's beautiful. We'll never know. I mean, you'll never know how many people you've helped, right?
I suppose I'll never know.
We'll never know how many people we help, but it's a beautiful thing when you hear someone say, I heard this and I did something with it, because oftentimes what happens is we get the credit for the work that people did. Because all we did was talk. All we did was just give information, and then the person you're talking to has to go and do the hard work. It's just like the people that you coach. You just talk. That's what you do. You bring expertise, but credit is to the people as it is to you who take what you are saying and they go do something about it, because that's where the real work starts. A lot of people just talk, listen, learn, and never execute.
We're going to talk about your favorite topic. I am sure it has to be up there. Biblical principles that have transformed your life. As a person, as an entrepreneur, as someone who is now better than where you started, like way better than where you came from. There are biblical principles that worked for you, and I am curious to find which ones are those. But I think, let me say, condolences for the loss of Ma. It amazes me that you're still coming to share value and inspire people.
Yes, sir.
Many people can't deal with loss and grief.
You know what it is? I'll tell you this. And for those of you who don't know, I'll just sort of give them some context to what you're saying. And I spoke about this on my live stream the other day. So in December, I get engaged, right? Exciting times, very happy. Let's get married. And then we set the date for the 31st of January for our lobola proceedings. And then a week before we were supposed to have that, my mother-in-law passes away, right? Her mother passes away. And now on the day when we were supposed to be celebrating our union, we are planning a funeral, right? And most people don't understand that this is a very real part of everyone's life, even the people that you are watching from a distance. And oftentimes it's very easy to look at you and say, it's easy for you to say because you got the podcast, because you are out there. But most people don't understand that when we speak, we don't speak because life is easy. We don't speak because there are no challenges. We speak from a place of, I am applying these things as I go, as I'm sharing it with you. So literally all that my life has been I am learning and sharing as I learn, right? I'm learning and I'm sharing as I learn. And so in this case, we're in a season now where expectation was intercepted by disappointment, right? Because of course we prayed, God,
Yeah.
keep her alive. You are healed in the name of Jesus. And so there are times when that disappointment comes in contact with your expectation, and now you have to prove your faith, because there is so much that is said when times are good, right? It's so much easier to say the Lord is my shepherd when you're on the mountaintop, or for you to say, he guides me through the darkest valley. Though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. It's very easy to say that when you are not in a dark valley, when you are not in the valley of the shadow of death. But when you are in the valley of the shadow of death and you are able to say that, that's where your faith is proven. That's when faith is shown. Man, and I say this
That's deep,
understanding that, you see, here's what happens. We say all of these profound things when times are good, and then we let ourselves off the hook when times are hard. And we say things like, I'm only human. It's okay for me to break down. It's okay for me to be depressed. It's okay for me to struggle with my faith. It's okay for me to doubt. But you don't say that when times are good. When times are good, you speak as if your faith is unshakable. When times are good, you speak as if you are the man. But then, when all the things that you said on the mountaintop are now tested in the valley, you give yourself permission to break down and permission to not believe anymore. That's not really how it works, right? That is not how it works. And you have to be able to get through that. You have to be able to allow yourself to see through the doubt and the discouragement and the disappointment, and find that little spark in between all of this darkness, that little spark that is the things you used to believe when times were good.
Is
That's
that
where
what
are
you
tested.
guys are doing now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I remember before I went back to the live stream, to my daily live streams after the funeral, I was having a conversation with my fiance, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I really don't feel like going live. And she was like, just go on there and talk about where we are right now. Right? She's like, talk about where we are right
She
now.
gave you
because-
permission to talk about the loss.
Yes. And she said to me, and this was very profound, because she said to me, people want to know that you know exactly what it feels like to be where they might be right now. Because somebody else might be there who's struggling with the same thing. Might not be the exact same thing, but someone else might be in a place where it is the beginning of 2026 and I'm excited for the year, but at the same time, I'm going through this big disappointment. It could be as serious as death, or it could be as small as a breakup with someone you've dated for 2 weeks. It doesn't matter. When you find yourself at that place, the crossroads between disappointment and expectation, you have to be able to still hold on to your expectation. And so for me, I was very encouraged by that conversation where she was just like, just go on there and talk about where we are right now. Let people see that this journey is very real. You don't only talk about things when you are not feeling them anymore, right? And I think this is part of the problem. You see it with people who advise people on entrepreneurship, on finances, on all these things. The problem is that most people advise people from a place where they've forgotten what it feels like. So
Beware the people they are talking to.
yes. So what happens is you have someone who is advising someone who is struggling to make ends meet. He's a millionaire, but he's advising someone who's struggling to make ends meet and saying to them, the problem is that you are not using your 5,000 rands properly. You are not saving. And it's like, save what? Save what? Save what? And so I think that's part of the beauty in this, being able to speak to people when you can still relate to where they are, because it doesn't make you insensitive. It doesn't make you out of touch, so to speak. It makes you very authentic in your message and in how it is that you guide people and advise people.
How do you process this? This is going to be a tough one, but not for you, I'm sure. It would be for many people. You've built a brand standing up for the faith and practically preaching and teaching. And part of that message is the Lord heals. And then when you lose your mom to a sickness, how do you process that and still speak the same message?
Well, it's the understanding that the Lord is also sovereign. So our faith is multidimensional. So the Lord heals, but when He doesn't, I'm okay with that, because you see, there is the example of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who find themselves thrown into the fire, and they have the kind of faith that's always inspired me. When I first read that story, it says they said to Nebuchadnezzar, "Our God will rescue us," and they say, "But even if He doesn't, we want you to be very clear on this. We will not bow down before you, even if the Lord doesn't." So in that moment, your faith is challenged to say, so there's also that part of it. There is that side of faith, which is the even if He doesn't. And so we are holding on to that, right? I always hold on to that, even if He doesn't, even if He, finds another way to help me through this, I'm okay with it, even if it takes longer, even if it doesn't happen, because my faith in God is not rooted in circumstances. It's not circumstantial faith. And a lot of people have circumstantial faith where when things work out, their faith in God is strong. When things don't work out, their faith falls apart, right? And this was the lesson of Job. The lesson of Job was Satan says, if I strike him and he loses everything, he will shun you to your face, saying to God, right? If I take everything he has, he will lose his faith. So it wasn't about stuff. It was about Job's faith. And so the enemy in that moment loses when Job loses everything, including his children. And he goes on to say, I came here with nothing and I'm going to leave with nothing. Everything I have comes from the Lord, right? I came from my mother's womb naked. I will leave naked. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken. Blessed be the name of the Lord. My faith was not in my car, right? And for a lot of people, their faith is tied to that car. Ooh, if you bump that car, you've stabbed their hearts. Their faith is tied to the money they have in the bank. When it gets to zero, they also just collapse. So for me, my faith is not rooted in that, because like the Apostle Paul, I have learned what it is to have plenty and to have little. And in all these things, I can be content. And that contentment comes from this. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So this all things idea comes from the fact that whatever I need to do, the question is not, do I have the money? Do I have the resources, the connections? The question is, do I trust God enough to do this? And if I do, then I will do it. I mean, there's a man I know very well from back home in Rustenburg who has done incredible work. He used to run a printing business, and then one day the Lord told him to stop doing that and just print Bibles.
Okay.
So he started printing Bibles for free, right? Printing Bibles for free
Jeez.
in almost all the African languages. And he goes into these war-torn countries with trucks that are full of Bibles, right? Just trucks full of Bibles, delivering them there, setting up these teaching bases, teaching the Bible, equipping people with this knowledge. And it was fascinating to me when I first sat down with him, because he asked me, what do you want? And I would tell him, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do, but I don't have the money right now. He says, what do you want to do? I want to do this, I want to do that, but I'm trying to get the capital. And then he eventually just had enough. He said, Poloko, listen, geld se gat. Right? He said, geld se gat. What do you want to do? I'm not asking you what do you have money for? What do you actually want?
Yeah.
And just like that, it dropped. Right? Just like that dropped. That this man does not depend on money to do what he does. And like this factory set up on this massive piece of land, and he showed me, he said, this truck, I didn't ask, do I have enough money before I got this truck? And of course, there are details to it, but the point is, ultimately, you haven't made a decision on where you stand. You have not yet made your decision. You haven't drawn your battle lines. And you will stay in this very same place where you say, one day when I have this, one day when I have that. And you'll
So
never do
the
anything.
focus and energy shifts more to what you don't have, what you can't do, than what you actually want to do.
You see? And what it is, it's the power of a decision. Right? It's the power of a decision. Because once someone has decided what they want, circumstances don't stand in the way of that. Resources don't stand in the way. Once someone has decided what they actually want, what they will actually get. It's kind of like, I'm sure you've probably heard someone that try to give financial advice and they say, if you needed to make 5,000 today and it was for your child who is in hospital, could you make it? And people would say, oh, of course I would. If it was for my child, I would do it. Because you see, in that scenario, the decision comes first. My child has to live. Not do I have the money? No, my child has to live. That's what comes before, do I have this? Do I have that? Do I have that? And once you've made the decision, my child has to live, then you figure a way out. You come up with a way to make sure that they live.
Let's look at your life and reflect on how far you've come. What biblical principles do you see and feel these really changed my life?
There are so many, and it would depend exactly which area of my life you're talking about. But if I had to speak generally, I would tell you that it's this principle of faith, right? Jesus teaches a faith, and he says, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Right? Believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. And in another place, when James talks about faith as well, he says, you say you have faith, but you don't have the works, right? It says, show me your faith without works, and I will show you my faith by my works. So I will show you what I believe by what I do. So it's like this. With where you are right now, you told me off air that you have a vision for Africa.
Yeah.
Right. You want to do this African tour. You want to do all of that.
True.
You could have that vision when you haven't started the podcast. And you can spend your whole life talking about how you see yourself as a voice throughout Africa. But you won't pick up a mic. You won't pick up a phone. You won't say a word. You won't do anything. You don't even have a passport. But you see yourself as a voice throughout Africa. That's not faith. That's a wish. That's wishful thinking. Right. I was giving this example in the latest episode of my podcast.
Yeah.
And what I was saying was, when I wanted to have my first car, I wished I had a car, but I didn't know how to drive. I was 20 years old and couldn't drive. Right. I was 20 years old looking at all these guys with cars and thinking to myself, man, how nice would it be for me to have a car? And I would go as far as praying for a car. But even that is still wishful thinking. Until I learned how to drive, went and got a license. It went and started a side hustle because I wasn't earning enough to be able to maintain a car even if I got it. Now that is faith. Right? That is faith. Faith is not sitting on your hands and
Faith
saying,
shown by the works.
I will show you my faith by my works. So with what you are doing here, this is you showing us your faith for Africa by your works. You have put this together. You are doing this. I mean, I remember the first conversation that we had when we sat in that restaurant and we were meeting for the first time, and you started asking me all these questions about content. And you say you almost quit.
I was about to.
And you didn't, right? You didn't. Because what did you do? You started looking for some information, right? You asked to say, maybe I'm getting something wrong. And I think I said this last time, but it's very important that as whoever, when you are not getting things right, you must assume there's something you don't know. You must assume. That's a winner's mindset. A growth mindset is one that always assumes I'm missing something. You can't just assume that, I guess life is just stacked against me. You must assume I'm missing something.
Something I don't know.
There's something I don't know. And however long it takes for me to get it, I should be able to get it. But I am missing something. And it's a hard thing because this is why when you talk to people who are really losing in life and they are down and out, most of these people, and specifically the ones who will not make it out of there, are the ones who know everything. They know everything. Doesn't matter what you say to them. They have an answer. Listen, people who are losing in whatever way, whether it be financially, in relationship, in whatever, their marriage is struggling, they know everything. You can't teach them anything. You cannot advise them. You cannot coach them. No one can, not even God himself, right? Because they know everything. They believe that, the only reasonable explanation is that I'm bewitched. That's what they think. They think, you know what? Someone is bewitching me. I can't wait for that person to die so I can succeed. So for me, I really have to come to that understanding, man, that there's always something I'm missing. And the question is, Poloko, what are you missing? What are you missing? What are you not getting? There is something that you are missing. What is it?
That's power. That's power. And I think everyone will resonate, especially with the way you broke it down with show your faith by your works. If you've got this big grand vision, let your works show that you have that vision.
Of course. Like you don't I always give this example. Like you don't know how to raise a chicken, but you want a farm, right? Like you don't know how to take care of how to grow, a single veggie. You don't know how to grow a single veggie, but you have a vision for a farm. You have a vision for a farm. Oh man, I can see it. Buy a pot plant. And for a lot of people, that action seems so small that it seems like it won't matter. But the truth is, once you do that, the next step will be unveiled to you. Right now, you are trying to figure out the whole entire map before you move. And you won't. You have to take the first step.
So the audit that someone listening should immediately make is look at the vision and the dream that you have and look at your life and how you're doing life now to see if the works reflect the dream.
Are you actually moving in that direction? You see, from where we are right now, we're in Johannesburg. If we want to go to Cape Town is very far. It's about a 13-hour drive. It's quite far. And if we said we want to go there, we can get there. Doesn't matter how far it is, we can actually get there. But if you now sit down with me and say to me, I can't go to the gate because that doesn't make a difference in the trip to Cape Town, look at how much, you won't make it. You have to get to the gate, and from the gate to the next stop sign, and from there to the next one, you have to move. But if you look at it and you say, just to leave Joburg alone will be about 2 hours just to get out of Joburg, then you'll never get to Cape Town. You'll never go there. Or, what other people would do is start moving in the wrong direction. You are moving in the opposite of where you say you're going. So it's very important to understand. Let me put it to you this way, Ntando.
Yeah.
You see, I learned that financial success and all kinds of material success in this world is not necessarily a reward for being a good Christian. It's not. Yeah. Everything you want is not a reward for you being a good Christian. Now, I used to think it was, right? When I was frustrated and stuck, I used to think, I'm a good Christian. So when I pray,
Why is this happening?
Surely God will give me this when I pray for it.
Yeah.
I ask for it and God will give it to me. Because why? I'm a good Christian. I go to church, I pray, I fast, I read my Bible, and all of these other things. But again, what I was suffering from was a lack of knowledge. And that's another principle that has really transformed my life from the Bible. Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge.
I love that.
Now, here's the thing. It doesn't end there. It goes on to say they have rejected knowledge. So not only is it that they don't have knowledge, it's that they have rejected knowledge. They have rejected. That's why I tell you that people who are losing in life, people who are living defeated lives, they know everything. They know everything. It doesn't matter.
Can't tell them anything.
Listen, they will have the audacity. I've seen people, the audacity to criticize the wealthiest man in the world and say the wealthiest man in the world is an idiot. Come on. You know, do you know how clueless you have to be to assume that someone got to where they are when they're at the top of the world because they're an idiot? You can say I don't like him, but idiot is you are telling on yourself. You know what I'm saying? You are telling on yourself. There are a lot of people that I don't like. There are a lot of people whose careers I don't respect.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who I don't believe in what they're doing. But I'm able to look at them and say, he's smart. Oh, he's very smart. And if I had an opportunity to sit with him, I would actually take it.
And learn something.
I would learn something from him. You know, so a lot of people are so sensitive and they're so emotional that they don't understand this idea that it is knowledge. It is knowledge that is a differentiator between most people. Between most of us, it's knowledge. I mean, it's kind of like if I told you about and maybe this might be a bit of a sensitive one. I don't know if YouTube wants it to be muted or whatever, but Hitler.
Okay.
Right? And you find out that this man took a hold of the minds of an entire nation and convinced them that another group of people deserved to be tortured in the way they were. You have to wonder what type of influence must you have to be able to do that? What is it that you know that the person who is trying to do good doesn't know? Because I'm sure at the same time, at any given time, when evil exists, there are men who have good intentions, who can't seem to achieve the same thing that the evil man is achieving. So when the good man can't just ask the question, how is it that everyone is listening to him? How is it that everyone is following him? If you can't do that and you are too emotional to actually learn from anyone else, you're in trouble. But we have to be able to learn. We have to be able to say, you know what? I don't like the fact, like, I don't like your music. Oh, but you're a good marketer though. Right? I should be able to say that. I don't like what your music stands for. I don't like what your music promotes. I don't like anything about it. But I do respect you as a businessman. You are a good businessman. So how do I learn from you and apply that to the thing that I believe is good that I'm trying to promote as well? Because as much as I think you're evil, when we check the metrics, you are winning as much as I think you're evil. And as the last time I checked, we were put here to have dominion. That's what was God's original mandate for man. Fill the earth, occupy it, right? Be fruitful, be productive, multiply, have dominion over the earth. So if I'm not having dominion, but the person that I think is evil and outside of God's order is actually having dominion over the earth, then surely I'm missing something. And that is where we make excuses. It's fine as long as one day we go to heaven. You know, as long as one day we go to heaven, they'll see, they'll just win here. But God created man to steward this here. So how is it that we are okay with handing it over to people whom we don't believe are in God's order?
This is powerful, man. One I always tie with this one, this principle, is the vision principle. Because someone was saying sometime back to me that the Bible shows you that there's two reasons why people fail. One is what you're talking about. For people, for lack of knowledge, people will perish. The other, for lack of vision, people will perish as well.
Yes, a lack of vision, and it's the fact that before you went to another country, you already knew that you want to do this Africa tour, right? And that governs where you get to go. When God says to Abraham, as far as your eyes can see, I will give it to you. So look up. And oftentimes that is our problem. Our problem is that we just don't see. And that's the problem. I mean, when you look at someone who is, has set their minds on ending their lives, that's usually the problem. They don't see beyond their pain. Like, all they can see is the pain right now.
You leave this principle, actually, because I've heard you talk about initially your vision was to dominate Rustenburg, to be heard all over Rustenburg.
Yes.
And now your brand is Poloko Global.
Absolutely. At some point, my Instagram handle, right? At that time, we didn't even have TikTok, but my Instagram handle was poloko.rtb, right? Which is for Rustenburg. And I knew I wanted to get my voice heard all around Rustenburg, because from where I was, Rustenburg was big from where I was.
It was a
And
big city.
yes. And usually you need a little bit of altitude for you to see how small you've been thinking. Right? You need a little bit of altitude. You need to go a little bit higher. Then you realize, oh, this was not as big as I thought it was. It's not as big as I thought it was. It's kind of like when the first time that this really set in with me, I was for the first time in Cape Town, right? And my first flight was at 21 years old. That's the first time I took a flight, and my first time at the beach.
Yeah.
And as I stood there, I was overwhelmed by the water. Literally, I could feel myself getting short of breath as I'm standing by this water, and I'm seeing these waves. I'm seeing that as far as I would look, I just saw water. This was so much water. And then the following day, when I had to leave, the flight takes off. And as the plane takes off, I look at the beach where I
Goes
was.
over the water.
I look at the beach where I was, and I'm like, that's where I stood. And I can barely see the person who was standing where I was standing yesterday, where I thought the water was so much. And as you go higher, you get to see that there is actually more than what you were seeing yesterday when you were standing there. So the guy who was in the plane up, above the waters can see way more than the guy who was standing on the beach. So that's what it became for me. That as I started to sort of zoom out a little bit, it's like, oh, Rustenburg is actually not that big. In the grand scheme of things, it is not that big. I mean, I still have screenshots on my phone of my TikTok account when it reached 100 followers, because I was like, 100.
This is good.
100. And I used to imagine 100 people. I'm like, that's a lot of people. And I was like, okay, now if I can get to 1,000, gone. If I can just get to 1,000, right?
How did 100,000 feel like? Did you celebrate it as much as?
No. And that's the interesting thing, right? Because as you grow, and this ties in really well with this principle of faith, and it takes a long time to really unpack it properly. But 100,000 was not something that I got excited about because it felt very normal. My mind had gotten there way before the numbers got there. My mind had been there.
So as you were growing, the mind went further.
The mind goes further. It's the reason why you look at a lot of champions. When champions achieve a certain goal, they just keep going. They just keep going. And you would think, I would relax. I would be at the beach doing this. I would quit. But for them, they saw this a long time ago. And to them, this feels normal, right? And you would think, why aren't you celebrating? Why aren't you? It's not that they don't want to celebrate. It is that there was a time in the past where energetically they settled into this. I felt like a global voice. Right now, from where I am, I embody the presence of a global voice. And so when it so happens that all of a sudden people are buying my book in Australia, in Canada, in Ireland, and all these other countries, I'm like, So that's the feeling I had, right? That's the feeling I had yesterday. The feeling I had yesterday was about this. So life is always catching up to your thoughts. And most people don't realize this, but life, physical reality is always catching up. It's not the present, so to speak. It's in many ways what has already happened in here. So for me, when I started seeing this global presence, and it is still growing, it is still expanding, it wasn't something that was like, whoa, what? That's crazy. It was like, okay. Because we've been here. We knew that this was going to happen. And sometimes I hear people say, did you ever imagine that this would be the case? if you ask me, it's even late. Like, it took too long if you ask me, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I still have a very long way to go, and I'm only getting started. But, when I hear people say, I never imagined that this could happen for me, I'm like, tell us the truth. Tell us the truth. You had days when you actually imagined it. You had
you could
days
see
when you
it.
actually saw it coming, right? You're being humble right now, and I understand. But tell us the truth. You actually had days when you imagined yourself on these biggest platforms and these biggest stages around the world. You saw yourself as a multi-millionaire, billionaire. Tell us the truth.
So vision was there at some point. It powered you.
The vision was there. Except maybe when people say I never saw it coming, what they mean is they did not actually obsess over it to the point where it kept them awake at night. They knew what they wanted and they planted the seed and they just went on with their lives to just deliver the value now. But
I think sometimes as well, it's the speed at which it came.
the speed at which
Because
it
your
came,
vision says this will happen in 10 years. And
Yes.
then boom, 3 years you're there.
and then in 3 years it happens. So I believe that's what some people mean when they say I never saw this coming. But for the most part, our physical reality is always catching up. And it's always catching up to what was actually in our minds at some
So,
point.
which means also in a way, watch your thoughts, because if they are negative, your life is catching up to that negativity.
Your life is moving in the direction of your most dominant thoughts. So your most
It's a
dominant
biblical
thoughts.
principle as well, isn't it?
It is.
As a man
right?
thinketh.
As a man thinketh, so is he. So your life is moving in the direction of your most dominant thoughts. And this principle is also seen in the same principle of faith that Jesus gives when he says, you have to believe that you have received it and it will be yours. And this is the hardest part for so many people, because how do you believe you've received it when you don't actually see it?
And you're broke.
And
you're
broke,
struggling.
right? And the problem is now when we pray, what's happening is we are using words, but the results we're getting are of the thoughts and the beliefs that we have hidden inside. So it's the reason why I say to people, when we pray, we're not praying that God would do the impossible. The Bible exists to inform us that nothing is impossible. So the problem for a lot of people is that they are praying for what they believe to be impossible. You don't believe it's impossible. The point is, God wants you to get to a point where you believe that it's not impossible. It is possible. And then you pray for it. Now, oftentimes, we tend to think of God as, the God of the impossible. But he's not the God of the impossible. Because to him, all things are possible. And I know this sounds like a whole lot of words, but understanding is very important, and language matters when it comes to matters of faith. Because when we call him the God of the impossible, we keep praying for things that we believe are impossible. In other words, we believe they can't be done. And so you will always find a way to get in God's way of doing it because you believe that it cannot be done. So when he speaks to people, when God speaks to people, he says, is anything too hard for me? He says, with God, all things are possible. He says, is this really too hard for me? It's not too hard for me. So once we understand that, then it puts us in a position where lights come on. It's okay. God wants me to believe that it is possible. That's what he wants me to do. He doesn't want me to pray for what I think is impossible. He wants me to first believe it's possible and then ask him for it. Not ask him for it in a way that says, I don't know if you'll do it or not, but no. In a way that's like, I know you will. I know you will.
I believe that I've already received it.
I believe I've already received it. I always define faith as an employment contract. You think about an employment contract. When you have an employment contract between you and your employer, it's very rare unless you do, you are doing something else. But when as an employee, you do the work before you're paid. But you do it with diligence. Every day you show up, you are there when they tell you to be there. And it's because you just know that you'll be paid at the end of the month. You just know that it'll be there. And so the problem is a lot of us have more faith in human contracts than we do in God. Right? So we trust human contracts to say, this one, if he doesn't pay me, I'll take him to court. So he'll pay me.
True.
But with God, I've gotten to a point where I've said, you know what? This is on God's integrity. This is on his name. So I believe he will.
Love it. I was actually about to go to a rap. You dropped a word there, diligence. And it flew, a scripture flew. That the diligent man will have doors open, stand before kings.
Yes.
How do you apply that principle? Is that one of them?
Yes. Proverbs says, do you see a man who is diligent in his work?
Yeah.
He will stand before kings. He
Yeah.
will not serve before men of obscurity. So he will not serve before officials of low rank, as some as
Ordinary
some,
men.
Yes, ordinary men. It says you won't, and it's very simple to understand because everyone is looking for what reflects their standard. Now, stick with me for a moment. Now, right?
Okay, let's go.
Everyone is looking for what reflects their personal standard. So when you are dealing with people who are of a high rank, they are looking for what reflects their personal standard. So I have a mentor who is very successful man. And he taught me something because at some point he wanted to do content.
Yeah.
He'd never done content before. And I say to him, you need to get a mic. And he says, okay, I'll get a mic for the phone. And he says, which one should I get? Send me a link and I'll get it. And I send him some options and I say to him, this one is more in the middle range, but it does the job. It's good. I said, no. And then he replies immediately, says, no. Send me the ones on the high end.
The last number.
Right? Last number. Right? Now, to some people, it's like, it's because he has money. No. It's because that's his personal standard. So anyone who does work for him, anyone who does work with him, must also bring the same standard. Otherwise, you and him will not work out, right? I have a personal standard. And if I did your podcast, if I did your podcast,
Yeah.
I got here and the standard was below my personal standard, chances are I wouldn't come back. Maybe I wouldn't even record, right? because there is a certain level of there is a certain level of respect that goes with it, which is reflected in my respect for myself, right?
True.
So my respect for myself must also be reflected from the people that I work with. And so when the Bible says that a man who is diligent in his work, who is excellent in his work, will not serve before officials of low rank. Officials of low rank don't care for excellent work. They just want the cheapest thing they can get. They just want the best deal for their money. Listen, cheap. Let it be cheap, right? That's what they want. And so a person who has expertise that is unmatched in the industry will not serve before such people. It's impossible for him to, because those people will also reject him. This is why people always say you are not the target market. It's not so much about you are not the person you are not necessarily the person that I'm looking for. It's that you yourself, you are also not attracted to my product because my product repels you. It's too much for you, right? So officials of low rank versus officials of high rank all comes down to the standards of those people that you are trying to serve. So your quality, when you put your podcast out there are people who are watching. I can guarantee you right now, my brother, there are some guests that would be a dream guest for you.
True.
They're watching. When you send them an email and say, could you come on? They go check first. And once they check, they say, this is not for me, right?
Yeah.
It's not even that they don't have the time. No. They'll make the time. They'll make the time. And you know that this is true because you do the same thing.
True.
The person watching this knows that this is true because they do the same thing. And so there are certain things that you must understand about the people that you are trying to serve, that you are trying to get to. Are they okay with the standard? We talk about it all the time when we say things like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Are you the person that the people you want to know actually want to know as well? Do they want to get next to you? Do they want to be seen with you? Yes, you want to be connected to them, but do they want to be connected to you? Do they want
power.
to tell people that they know you and you know them? Or would it be embarrassing for them to tell people that they know you? Because for a lot of people, you'll find that it would be embarrassing to this guy for me to tell him that, for me to tell people that he knows me.
You know what weird principle people attach to the one you're talking about now?
Mm-hmm.
That you are the sum total of the 5 people that you're hanging with. Someone took that and said, but you need to observe something. If you are trying to be having a high net worth 5 and to be in there, you have to ask yourself, do they want you as part of their 5?
Do they want you as part of their circle? You see, that's the problem. That's the problem with this incomplete advice that we sometimes give people, where we say things like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That advice is so incomplete, because when you say that to people, it puts them in a place where they now stop using what they can do. They stop using what they have. They stop trying to
look for connections.
They start to look for connections. And that's unsustainable, because who is going to keep you around for long once they realize that what you know is not as strong as who you know? So once we realize that you actually came into this place through connections, and not because you know something and not because you have something to give, you'll be very quickly out of the door. We're going to kick you out because you didn't get here because you are smart. You didn't get here because you have something to offer.
True.
Yes,
Love
sir.
it, man. Where do people get the book, and what should we look forward to?
My good sir, we have so much happening this year, but the book is still polokoglobal.com. For those of you who are watching outside of South Africa, you can get it from Amazon. It is also on Amazon now. And we also have a new podcast. It's a daily show, 6 a.m. Monday to Friday on Poloko Global on YouTube and on Spotify as well, where you
We'll
listen
drop
to
the link.
podcasts.
We'll drop the link.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And my good sir, it is always good to have a conversation with you. And congratulations on all the success, man. Congratulations, truly.
I appreciate you. I appreciate
sir.
you, bro. And I really wish you well. The YouTube, I
Thank
know, will fly as you have
Thank you.
in other platforms. What would you put your growth in other platforms like TikTok down to, if you were to zero it down?
It is consistency, but it's consistency with the right understanding, right? So not only consistency by posting all the time, but consistency in the standard as well, and consistency in your improvement. So consistently improving, consistently showing up, consistently maintaining a high standard, right? So consistently bringing value to people. So this word consistency wraps so much in it. I don't want people to think when we say consistency, we mean
Post all the
just
time.
post all the time, because you can post all the time and not go anywhere because you're not posting good stuff. So once you post all the time, the first step is post all the time, so show up all the time. And once you are showing up all the time, you give yourself a month. You say, I expect to see growth in a month. And when I'm not seeing growth in a month, I start to question myself. Am I actually offering value? Because I should be growing if I'm offering value. So let me tweak that. Is it the quality? Is it this? Is it that? So consistency, but with the understanding of consistently delivering value, consistently maintaining the standard, and consistently improving.
Growing and improving.
Yes, sir.
I am so glad I asked that question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you for hearing us till this time. Let us know. Ask more questions that you would love for him to answer. And as you heard, he has a new podcast that has launched on
Yes,
YouTube.
sir.
He posts every day. We'll put the link in the description of this video so you can also check him out. Have fun. I know this is going to be a high growth year. See you in the next episode.